Good evening. It's November 14th, 2022, and this is the school board business meeting. Local media outlets were notified in writing of this agenda on 11/11. If you'd please join me for the pledge and a moment of silence.
With liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can you please be seated? We are so lucky in this community to have great partners, and one of those is Judge David Guyton, who is joining us today for the swearing in of board members. We've gone way back to when I was a fledgling assistant principal doing some truancy, but what I've always loved about Judge Guyton is his firmness, but his fairness and his love for kids. And him being here today is a representative of that core value he has, because board members represent the kids. So at this time, I'm going to turn the agenda over to him for the swearing in of our new members. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Dr. Smallsy, and I do believe that we do have much in common in our calling, in our jobs here, because in court, my standard is what is in the best interest of the child, and that's exactly what each of you are here for. And tonight, I'm honored to be back with you to swear in our board members, 2 returning and 1 new. Mr. Brent Falconberry, Ms. Helena Miller, and Mr. Peter Nozel have been elected in the legally prescribed manner to serve 4-year terms on the Board of Trustees of Rock Hill Schools. I shall read the oath of office and ask that they repeat after me. And at this time, I would like for Mr. Brent Falconberry to step forward. And do you have anybody you desire to hold? All right, all right. Then Dr. Smolsey, if you don't mind, if you will come forward and hold the Bible for Mr. Falconberry. And Mr. Falconberry, if you'll place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. So help me God. You may put your hand down. Congratulations. And at this time, I would ask Helena Miller and her family to come forward. Who gets to hold the Bible? And why don't y'all kind of stand that way? You can see the camera. And Ms. Miller, if you will place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified according to the Constitution of this state to exercise the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and of the United States. So help me God. Congratulations. And finally, at this time, I would like for Mr. Peter Nozel to come forward. And it's hard for me to say Peter because I know him as Pete. And Pete and I have served together with the South Carolina Army National Guard for many years before I retired, and he has served honorably in that profession, and so he's used to taking this oath of office. He's done it a couple times before.
And I didn't used to have gray hair when I met you.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of this state
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Pete.
Thank you.
I declare each of you to be a member of the Board of Trustees of Rock Hill Schools for the term ending November 2026. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Smolsey.
Thank you, Judge Guyton. By Board Policy BD, Organization of School Board, the officers of the Board of Trustees are Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Secretary. According to this policy, the superintendent will serve as a secretary to the board. Officers may be elected by secret ballot or by voice vote according to the will of the majority. By a show of hands, please indicate if you prefer secret ballot. By show of hands, please indicate if you prefer a voice vote. Okay. This election will be conducted by voice vote due to unanimous consent. For the office of board chair, duties of board chair may be found in the Administrative Rule BDR, Organization of the Board. Are there any nominations for board chair?
Nominate Blake Miller.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Mildred Douglas.
I decline.
There's a nomination for Ms. Miller. Ms. Douglas declined nomination. Are there any other nominations? Okay. At this time, I need a motion to close nominations. Okay, so moved by Ms. Cherry. Is there a second? By Mr. Falconberry. At this time, we will vote by raising the right hand for all favor for Ms. Miller to be chairperson of the board. Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you. This is the best time for me at this board meeting because now I turn the meeting back over to the chair, the newly elected chairperson. Congratulations, Ms. Miller.
Thank you so much, Dr. Schmaltzy. I want to say thank you to the board team for the confidence entrusted in me. Am I not on? Sound okay? Yes, I think I'm on. At this point, we'll open up the floor for nominations for the office of vice chair.
Madam Chair, I move that we nominate Brent Falconberry.
Thank you. Any further nominations?
I move that we nominate Mildred Douglas again for a term to be to this year.
I decline.
Decline? Okay. Are there any further nominations? Okay. At this point, I will entertain a motion to close nominations. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. At this point, I will entertain a motion to approve Mr. Brent Falconberry for the office of vice chair. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Burns. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Falconberry, would you like to say something?
No, absolutely. Thank you all for the confidence of, being put into the vice chair position. Hopefully, our chairperson will not need my assistance too much, but in the event that she does, I'll be here and be ready to run the meetings for her.
Congratulations.
So, that concludes that section. And at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda as posted.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Falconberry, seconded by Ms. Douglas.
Okay.
Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So first up tonight is recognitions, which I think is probably our most favorite part of the agenda for every single meeting. We have a room full of folks here tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Schmalzi.
It doesn't surprise me that we have so many good folks to recognize, especially on the student level. I think we're extremely blessed, again, in this community. They have so many activities that we do very well. And this is just one glimpse of the amount of success that we are having at this point. In order, we're going to go down the list. Saluda Trail Middle School, 7th grade football team. So we'll turn it over to Dr. Marsh. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At this time, as we recognize our 7th grade football team at Saluda Trail, I would like to turn it over to Coach Denio.
I think they're used to hearing a whistle. If it had blown a whistle, they would have came right away.
So as they're joining me, I do want to thank you, members of the school board, and Dr. Smallsy for inviting us. This is a piece of our 7th grade Wildcat football team. Our young men started in the summer, worked hard to achieve their goal of a championship season in the classroom and on the field. This group was able to succeed at the highest level this season and achieve a perfect 6-0 record. I'm thankful to be able to lead such a great group of coaches and young men. Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Where are you at? Our principal, it's his first championship. I'm glad to be able to bring that home to him. Chauncey Dunham, our athletic director, and Mrs. Hall, our grade level administrator. My wonderful assistant coaches this year were Coach Dave Fleming and Coach Dan Johnson. And I am Coach Denio, the head coach. And I will now introduce the players so you can see some of the faces that are hiding behind the helmets. Rayshawn Eggers Clark. Just give a wave, guys. Chris Dunham. Jadarian Carter Simpson. Carson Moore. Christian Hunt. Rylan Brooks. Nazir Patterson. Tyreek Backstrom. Gabe Blanchard. Kenneth Clyburn, Walter Roberts, Emmanuel Robinson, Jameer Campbell, Alexander Rodriguez, Makai Taylor Williams, Bryce Collins, Jacob Haas, Josiah Thomas, Markeviar Heath, and Caden Whitlock. And again, we thank y'all for inviting us here.
always seemed to, that seventh grade was about the time they hit the growth spurt. They were both kind of short and a little bit chunky in the sixth grade, and in seventh grade they shot up and got thin, and so it was kind of looked like whole different kids. It looked like little men instead of just babies.
I'm glad they let me participate in their picture, but I always have to ask them, do we look tough or do we look cool? Which one? Because it changes my facial expression. So when you see it in the picture, that was my tough look, just in case you're wondering. Next, we'd like to recognize Dutchman Creek Middle School. They dominated in volleyball, both 7th and 8th grade. So we're going to start with the 7th grade Dutchman Creek Middle School volleyball team.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Clayton Moulton. I'm the proud principal of Dutchman Creek Middle School. We're going to recognize, if we could, Dr. Smalls, our 7th and 8th grade volleyball team together. As you can see, we don't have very many of them here because quite a few of them are actually in a basketball scrimmage. So we have some multi-sport athletes that do a fine job for us. But to recap, the 7th grade team won the conference championship with a 10-1 overall record. The 8th grade team went undefeated this entire season, and they finished as regular season and conference tournament champions with an overall record of 13-0. And they also won it last year, so they capped off their middle school career with a 23-1 overall middle school record and 2 championships. So at this time, I want to call up Coach Claudia Caterba to introduce the ladies that are here.
Here's what we have for our 7th grade team. We got Caroline, Shylin, Riley, Miss Lynn Scott here, Sarah, and Madden. That's all we got for 7th grade. 8th grade, we're even smaller. We got Carmen, Embry, Lauren, and Mallory.
So cute.
At this time, we'd like to call up the Sullivan Middle School 8th grade football team.
That's a big difference in the size. And, I mean, they hit that spurt, obviously.
Thank you, school board, for having us tonight. I want to thank Dr. Roldan, our principal, our admin team, all the coaches and people that it takes to have a season like this. A lot of things have to fall into place. We had 3 comeback wins, an overtime win, a last-minute touchdown in the championship game. So a lot of things have to fall into place. I want to thank the parents. We have a great group of parents supported these young men. Let's see, we'll run through our coaches. Coach Kala here to my left, Coach Sutton, and our 7th grade coaches, because I include them. This is a program. It's a football program. Coach Casey Espich, Jeremy Long, and Coach Parrish. Our players, you can raise your hand. Again, just like all these other teams, we have kids wrestling right now and playing basketball. So we had a couple days off. We moved right into the next season. Elijah Akala, Zahari Calhoun, Brendan Graves, Nigel Leitner, Colby Phelps, Olin Pitters, Eva Bumgardner. Yes, we do have a girl on the team. Zykel Reed, Jaden Lyde, Noah Nelson, Raul Valdez, McCoy Questel, I always get your name wrong, Marlon White, Zymir Gordon Miles, Brady Besselman, see, Najee Duncan, Deshaun Dean, Adam Long, Cameron Wilson, Quentin McBride, I know he's here, Jakari Peterson, Dennis Navarro, Tristan Peterson, Tavon Varner, Vernon Alexander, and we had one student move to Spartanburg mid-season, and his name is Justin Cortez, but he was an excellent player. We give everybody credit who contributed to this season. I want to also thank Saluda Trail. They had an excellent season. They were 8-0. They hadn't been scored on until the championship game, and they showed a lot of class in the final game. Well, thank you very much. Oh, we got a good picture. I know you got.
Look at that little one. Take pictures.
Thank you.
Our last recognition tonight is from South Point High School, and it's a state swimming champion. So we'll call on South Point.
I would like to recognize this young man who did something his 9th grade year that, you know, as a high school athlete, we dream of doing just within 4 years, but he's done it in his first year. He went down to the state swim meet, and he had a heck of a day. He entered the 200 free, and he broke a 43-year-old record for ages 13 to 14 by swimming a 1.43 second time. Then he turned around and won the 500 free as a 9th grader with a time of 4 minutes and 39 seconds. So I would like to, on behalf of South Point High School and Rock Hill School District, present our guy, John McCray, we call him Jack, with his ribbon or medal of honor for his state title this year. And I would also like to say, not putting a lot of pressure on him, but being that he's a 9th grader, we're looking for a couple of more before he leaves.
Yeah. Flips the medal.
Research is very clear on one thing. When kids get involved in activities at school, their grades go up. There's something about the rapport of a coach and a team and being able to harness both success on the field or in the pool and in the classroom. So we encourage kids to get involved in whatever it is they're interested in. We have so many opportunities, and some aren't competitive. Some might be more of a hobby type, but we encourage that, and this is testimony to what they can do on the field and in the classroom. So that's always a good time. I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go any further, we're going to take about a 3-minute recess real quick, grab a few pictures, and if there are any parents that have something that they would like to get to, this would be a good time to exit the boardroom. Of course, we would love to have you to stay for the rest of the meeting. So let's take a 3-minute quick break, okay?
Testing 1 2 1 2. Do 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 do.
Hello, hello, hello. So we're back. Thank you for that quick break. Do we have any citizen participation for today? We do not. Okay. Then we're going to move on to the consent action agenda. We have one item, which is the minutes from the October school board business meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That moves us down to our action agenda, and the first item on the action agenda is the approval of high school course proposals for the 23-24 catalog. And we do have Ms. Jen Morrison up here should board members have any questions. So let's start off with that. Do we have any questions for Jen Morrison? I don't hear any. So at that point, I would entertain a motion to approve the high school course proposals for the 23-24 catalog. Thank you, Mr. Burns, and I have a second from Ms. Cherry. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up is approval of local board-approved courses, which is also Ms. Morrison. Do we have any questions regarding this? Bearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the local board-approved courses. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second?
A second.
I think Ms. Cherry was first,
Okay.
but thank you. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is the request for out-of-continental U.S. Field Study Request 2024 for Hawaii, and this is for all 3 high schools. And I believe that is Dr. Wilkes. Do we have any questions regarding this?
Yeah, I don't see my name on such
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we did talk about this, and I do think as board members, we are approved volunteers, and of course, paying for the trip, I believe they would probably love to have you as a volunteer.
Let me know if you need any help, Dr. Wilkes.
You'll be second.
You going too? I mean,
You would have to be second, but yes, it's usually open to have, they call them tag-alongs, where you actually are not you don't have to chaperone. So.
But it is fun to chaperone and hang with
It
kids
is.
too.
It
So,
is.
but minus that, do we have any other questions about the field study request? This is a great opportunity. Yes.
I just have one. First of all, I would like to say how well pleased I am to see the 3 high schools going together.
Yes.
And the second thing is, do we have any type of scholarship or what assistance with the cost of the trip for some of the students?
We have our band directors here, and I can speak from being a parent who had a son who went many years ago and is still set up the same. They have opportunities where they can earn monies towards, and that's why they usually try to plan it out so far ahead, where they can earn monies towards paying for, paying on the trip. And it's always a good thing for the students, for the parents can afford to pay it, to have them put that part in.
Can
And
you?
those opportunities are still available?
Yes, and
Yeah.
there will be some scholarship money available to help assist, unfortunately not to be able to pay in full, but to provide some assistance, yes.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering that in the past, we used to be able to work the Panthers game,
Right.
and the children would earn money for the trip. So I
We
didn't know
still
what was.
work the Panthers events, as long as lots of other events along the way. We're excited about this opportunity to plan it a little further out in advance so that they have more, the payments can be smaller and there'll be more fundraising opportunities. We've had students in the past who've been able to fundraise and work off that entire cost of the trip and go no cash out of pocket.
Thank you.
For our
Appreciate it.
viewing audience, because I know that sound is not excellent when
Yeah,
we.
everything that you just said.
Yeah. Basically, what was shared by the band directors is that there are fundraising opportunities over the next year and a half for students in various forms and fashions. So I think that satisfies the concerns from the board. Was that a decent summary? Yes. Okay. So, are there any other questions regarding the field study request? No?
I would say,
Yeah.
I think it's awesome you're going to Pearl Harbor. You know Manny Kimmel, the local WRHI in town. It'd be great if the students could actually talk to him before they go, because his great-grandfather and great-grandfather was Admiral Kimmel. So he could really enlighten them a lot on Pearl Harbor.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, just to kind of second what Ms. Douglas said, I think it's amazing to hear that all 3 high schools are going together. I think that's great. It just shows Rock Hill spirit. So, with that, here's the formality. I will entertain a motion to approve said field study request. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And thank you for the two of you for being here to answer questions. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Madam Chair, just one thing too. I think it's important going into post-pandemic, realize a lot of our students, because of the pandemic, the social side of their education has been lacking. We've talked about that as a board. We've talked about that as a staff. Any kind of activity we can do to bring kids together without devices is truly a learning experience. And so to get 3 high schools together in premier bands together to go showcase in another state, especially Hawaii, I think is great for so many reasons, not just for the band and the music side, but also the social side of traveling and learning to work out disagreements in rooms and things like that. So thank you it's a lot of work to do this. I know, I've been there. So thank you for volunteering to put all that time and effort to give these kids an opportunity to grow. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us.
Y'all be safe now.
So the last item on our action agenda for tonight is certification of delegates for the 2022 Delegate Assembly. The Rock Hill School Board of Trustees is members of the SCSBA, which is the South Carolina School Boards Association. And the Delegate Assembly will conduct voting on December 3rd. And we have a allocated amount of votes for our school district. And as a body, we have to approve who will be casting those votes at that meeting. So with that said, let's open up the conversation to who is registered to go. Wendy, Mildred, Patrice, Pete, are you going?
Potentially.
Potentially, okay. So I'm going. So would we, so we have Patrice, we have Mildred, myself, and Pete. So according to this, we have a total of 6 votes. So mathematically, it would make sense if Pete's okay with that, that myself and Pete are alternates, and then that we authorize Ms. Cole, Ms. Cherry, and Mildred to cast 2 votes each on behalf of the board. Is that something that somebody is willing to make a motion to?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So we have a motion to authorize Ms. Wendy Cole 2 votes, Patrice Cherry 2 votes, Mildred Douglas vote, and to designate Helena Miller and Pete Nosel as alternates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. So any discussion on that? No? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And this is due by midnight tonight. So I will turn this in before I go to bed tonight. So we're good to go. So thank you for that. Next up is communications. We do not have any tonight, which means that we're going to move over to presentations. And I know that Dr. Dickey, as well as Jen Morrison, is part of this, so I'm going to welcome them up to talk of a little bit more about EOCEP and Work Keys data.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, our newly elected co-chair, as well as our esteemed board members. Tonight, Ms. Morrison and I are here to present part 2 of our data presentation series. We started off with our SC Ready assessments for grades 3 through 8, and tonight we'll be moving into high school assessments for the EOCs as well as the work keys. So one of the things that we talked about during that first presentation is just really narrowing our focus and making sure that we are streamlining our efforts to create that consistency and continuity from pre-K through 12. So as you'll see, I thought this quote was quite fitting for the work that we are about to do or that we're already engaged in. You don't get results by focusing on results. You get results by focusing on the actions that produce those results. So you'll find that some of the strategies that we're implementing will be consistent. MTSS, PLCs, really looking at how we utilize data to make those informed decisions. So So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Morrison. She's going to get more into the details of how our students fared, and then we'll, of course, address any questions or concerns you may have and close this portion out.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dickey. I just want to begin by, again, as always, saying thank you to our teachers and administrators who work very, very hard to help students be where they need to be by the end of the year at the high school level. And so what we see with Algebra 1 from the 21-22 school year is that we have a rebound to getting back to our pre-pandemic levels. We think that this is for a variety of reasons, including the introduction of some interventions related to algebra applications as a course for extra time for our students who may need that. In English 2, English 2 has always been a good solid score for us as a district. Very steady. We are slightly below, but really about at the state level on this. In talking with principals and having those conversations, we believe that our English Essentials classes are very important in focusing on volume reading and reading across content areas. So you can see that in English 2, we are staying about where the state is. Okay. Then in U.S. history and the Constitution, again, we're rebounding in this area, and we are slightly above. This was not an EOC that was counted in 21-22, but since it was being piloted, we had new standards that were coming through, but we have always been slightly above the state in U.S. history. And then in Biology 1, this is a real area of focus for us as a district. We are almost at where the state is, basically at the state. And we think that in Biology 1, this is a reflection of a number of things, including reading and writing and pacing in our science classes as things move forward. There has been a good amount of drama at the state level in terms of which assessments are given for our career readiness. You can see that last year we did move from Win Ready to Work to ACT Work Keys, and that really helped our students. And so we have a number of students, way greater number of students who are earning certificates in these areas, and this helps our district when it comes, in our schools, when it comes to the state accountability report card. So lots of conversations, of course, are happening, and lots of action is happening, and we're narrowing that action. So instead of every school attempting to work on this or work on that or just working through courses, we're really making sure that our schools have high quality instructional resources and support. There are a number of purchases that have been made through ESSER funds for this. We are really working on that MTSS plan to provide positive learning experience for all students. This is especially important for students who have not been successful in the Tier 1 or traditional classroom. We are relaunching district-wide PLCs where when you have great teachers in a professional learning community, the idea is that those teachers are able to work together and spread that strength across all of the teachers. We are continuing our district benchmark assessment system. We actually have given 2 benchmarks in our EOC courses at the high school. But the most important thing when it comes to assessments, those assessments are very short. It's 1 class period. But it's really about teachers being able to use those data because they're a real indicator of where the pacing is to get students where they need to get by the end of the semester. We're supporting and emphasizing teacher and leader effective use of data with a variety of initiatives. We know that our teachers who are high school teachers who are utilizing Mastery Connect get better results on our district benchmarks, and then also on the EOCs at the end of the semester. So we're trying to re-engage our teachers to focus on those standards, the pacing, and using tools like Mastery Connect. And then just making sure that because reading affects all of our EOCs across the board, that we have good reading intervention and support at the high school level. through our reading interventions class. We use Universal Read 180 there, and then also all the pieces that are in our district and school reading plans.
So we'll end with a quote that I think, again, is very appropriate for the work that we're trying to do. Just creating that laser-like focus, making sure we're focusing on the main things, making sure that our Tier 1 instruction is of a high quality, and we're really differentiating learning experiences and meeting the needs of all students. So the work with our PLCs that our department is engaged in, as well as our principals, really building on that instructional leadership and coaching into those PLCs are things that we are confident will be game changers in terms of improving learning outcomes for our students.
I just have a couple of questions to make certain things clear, okay? We know what the EOCEP is, but we got a lot of people who are watching.
Yes.
When you use those terms, they do not know what you're talking about.
And the EOC is an acronym for End of Course Examination Program.
Okay, and then you have the MTSS.
Multi-tiered systems of support, making sure that we are supporting students at all levels. So when we speak to Tier 1, that is the instruction that all of our students are getting. And ideally, we would love for 100% of our students to be proficient and working on grade level, but that system of support means, what do we do when they aren't showing proficiency? So that's where Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions come into play. Tier 2 interventions are where we're pulling students in small groups, typically for smaller intervals of times, anywhere from 3 to 5 times per week. And then Tier 3 is that most intensive intervention. So that's where the intensity is going to increase, and typically you're reducing the size of the group of students you're working with. So it could range from one-on-one to typically no more than 3 or 4. So that MTSS covers every learning experience for every kid, from what they get in their classrooms to how teachers and interventionists and coaching staff, how they are intervening when students aren't meeting grade level expectations. So thank you so much for bringing that. When you live in this world, you do have a tendency to speak your own language and assume that everyone understands it. So thank you for mentioning that, to make sure that we're very clear. But you're gonna hear MTSS spoken about for years, because it's not a destination. It's something that we're gonna always be working on and always trying to improve.
And while you're doing that, just PLC, Professional Learning Communities, explain that briefly, what that would look like.
Yes, and Ms. Morrison kind of spoke to it. What we're really doing with a PLC is looking at student data. Our goal is to get to the individual student. So when you think about PLCs and MTSS, they really go hand in hand. So PLC meetings are not just your typical meetings. They are really designed specifically to talk about teaching and learning in the classroom. What does the data tell us in terms of areas of strengths and weaknesses? How are we planning for instruction? One of the things that we've been really leaning into this year is beginning with the end in mind. So number one, we have to know what our grade level standards are. We have to make sure that we're planning instruction that's calibrated to the rigor as outlined in those standards. And then when we're looking at assessments, are we assessing kids for the right purpose? What information are we trying to gain? Not just giving them 100 questions or 20 questions, making sure that our assessments are varied and that we're giving our students opportunities to demonstrate their learning in multiple ways. So in a PLC meeting, that team, it could be by grade level, it could be by content area, they're looking at student data, they're planning and making instructional decisions. They're talking about best practices, what is working, what is not working. They're talking about, how do I differentiate? What do I do when students aren't understanding the content that is being delivered? How do I differentiate, pull students in small groups? And then you're coming back and you're doing it again, because our goal is to reach 100% of our students. So looking at, as Ms. Morrison mentions, we have teachers who traditionally get very great results with students. So how do we harness those strengths? How do we have them to really work collaboratively and work smarter and not harder, so that we reach the masses? So that PLC just provides that learning community. It's almost like a think tank where you go to solve problems, to look at data, and to really just improve our teaching practices in Rock Hill schools.
I know we have some high school students that's on the
Yes.
third grade reading level,
Yes.
so we have something to work with them to help them
Now,
move ahead, or?
I will say, when you think about MTSS, high school probably has the biggest challenge, because when you look at the scheduling alone, students don't typically travel in the same cohorts. Another thing is our high school does not currently have interventionists and coaches staffed, so that is an area that we certainly would love to improve for them, just so that we have those experts who can truly intervene. So when you look at EOC results, that gives us one data point, but when teachers are intervening for EOCs, it's very different than MTSS, where we're really looking at those foundational skills that may be underdeveloped. So high school, I will say, by far is the most challenging in really setting up those structures that work for all students. Adding some instructional support staff will certainly help with that, but they have to be very strategic in scheduling, in making sure that all staff is really being fully utilized. Our middle schools, they have better structures because the students are traveling in teams, so you can use your enrichment block, or you can use homeroom block a little bit differently. And elementary schools, of course, they all have reading coaches, they have interventionists, so in terms of having staff already in place, they're probably set up the most successfully to really implement MTSS.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a firm believer that you have to keep your eyes on the prize, right? If you want to hit your goals, you got to know what they are. You got to see them every day. You got to work towards them every day. When we're seeing the data, I know that Ms. Morrison mentioned, state average. Well, state average is, of course, not our goal. I would love on these charts to see our goal, what it is, and where we're at, relative to that. Or if we don't have one, maybe have one in the future, an actual, stated goal. But also maybe show us where the top quartile is in the state. Because to me, that's more the goal than the state average. So I know we're not there yet. We've got to walk before we run. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to see it so that everyone knows if we're not there, how big is the gap? Are we decreasing that gap as we go forward?
And that's one thing we've been very intentional about this year. I'll start from just the principal level. With one of my responsibilities is serving as an evaluator for principals. So when they are setting their PADEP goals, this year we're making sure that the principals' goals are aligned to MTSS, PLCs, trusted professionalism. We're making sure that everyone in our department's goals are aligned to those things, because I do feel like everyone is working hard, but when you don't have those efforts aligned, everyone could be spinning and the boat can be going in a circle. So our goal is to align those efforts and to make sure when our coaches, when our specialists enter a building, they're supporting the goals of the principals. The AP is aware of that goal. The teachers are aware of that goal. That's another great way that we've been able to use Dan and Ayanna, our two members of our data teams. They have been participating in data meetings with every single school, because every school differs, and showing them how you drill down to the student level. Because although overall our scores aren't where we want them to be, we do have some students performing at high levels. So how do we make sure we're pushing every single kid to grow as much as possible? So I mentioned before, and I'll continue to state it, our championship vision is to create the highest amount of growth possible, meeting our kids where they are, meeting our schools where they are, and giving them the tools, the resources, and the support to really propel everyone forward. So although we haven't shared it in this presentation, and we do have one more, I'll make sure that we have it there, but we have been very intentional about making sure principals, teachers, students as well, because if you don't show them the bar, how are they expected to reach it? So making sure that everyone knows what that bar is and how we make those gains to incrementally grow. And lastly, I'm currently working on our academic recovery plan for the state, and in there it has a 5-year span where each year we have that timeline for how do we incrementally increase. I'll be happy to share that with the school board as well.
Great.
Any other questions? I think Wendy and then Ms. Cherry.
Ms. Cherry can go first. Go.
I have a couple of questions dealing with that big gap that we have since we do not have reading interventionists at the high school level. For those students that haven't been reached and may not be reached within that time frame of your goal setting, have those students been introduced to ATC as far as programs that are offered? I know they know about it book-wise as far as selecting course, but having a visual to see what's offered, what they can work towards for a certificate or internship, for when they graduate, they're prepared for something. I had the opportunity to see the middle school come through when we were doing Back to Pack, and they had tours, groups touring. I know all the middle schools didn't register for that, but it was very insightful for them, and I truly appreciated the fact that we have started that where they can go tour each class and see what's offered. Can we not do something on the same level for those in high school that say they don't know anything about the programs that are offered and that type of thing? To them, it's just, oh, it's just ATC.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that, because after the initial board meeting, I went back to do some research, and yes, we do have a program where all of our middle schools have the opportunity to go to tour the ATC. Mr. Riveri has done a wonderful job with building that relationship with middle school principals, just to make sure before students even enter high school, they know what those opportunities are, because we are training our kids to be college, career, military, and citizen ready. So that looks different for every child. So making sure that they realize the different opportunities and the different pathways that are available. Rock Hill Schools has choice programs, so I know I'll use Saluda Trails, for example, really looking at students beginning as early as middle schools, earning those certifications that they can use not only in school but beyond in terms of looking at careers, really having those partnerships with community business owners so that our students see the opportunities that are available. I know Ms. Morrison works with our school counselors as our students are doing IGPs. Those are conversations that they are having to see the different options that are available in Rock Hill schools. So that those efforts are in play, but we can always continue to increase and intensify them to make sure that students are aware of the many opportunities that they have available and the career paths that are possible.
I appreciate that. It seems to work better if they have a visual,
yes,
more so than just someone telling them a presentation.
Yes.
But to see it actually in action and to know what they have opportunities to work towards.
Yeah.
I thank you for that.
I agree. And personalized learning is another area where we can explore that, really having students to lean into those interests, because we know our kids are talented in many ways, so that they see that some of those interests are great pathways to future careers.
So we do have the entrepreneurship program where they can start their own businesses within the ATC? Or?
I'll let you speak to that.
Ms. Cherry, would we have some entrepreneurship and business courses that are oriented toward that direction? That's actually part of one of our career clusters.
Thank you.
So those are available.
Okay.
I love that we are doing more to help our teachers collaborate with the PLCs. One of the things I was been thinking about recently is we've got so many great seasoned teachers who, you know, I see and hear about their lesson plans really engaging, and we've got all these new teachers coming on board. And as we know, our teachers are just overwhelmed with all of the things that they are required to do and coming up with those new lesson plans. Do we have any type of a district lesson plan database that, you know, newer teachers and even the other teachers, you know, kind of those tried and true, you know, exciting, engaging lessons for our teachers?
I wouldn't call it a database, but yes, we do have pacing guides that have interactive links, sample assessments, instructional resources. So our coaches and specialists have worked really hard to provide those for all teachers. So I wouldn't call it a database, but do they have access to sample assessments, lesson plans that are aligned to our state standards? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And the state has actually developed very much a database of lesson plans that are tied to priority standards that all of our teachers have access to as well.
Thank you.
Nope. Then we say thank you for that presentation. We appreciate both of you, and we look forward to see and hear an update, probably in about 6 months or so, about the progress that's been made. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Ms. Cherry had at the last board meeting asked, together with a couple of others of us, about more information about mentoring programs. So with that said, we have Ms. Serena Williams and Lindsay Michak here to talk a little bit about the mentorship programs that we have in our district and so forth.
Good evening, Chairperson Miller, Vice Chair Falconberry, our board members, and Dr. Schmalzi. Following the COVID pandemic, we were very excited to reopen our doors to our buildings and welcome volunteers again this school year. One very important group of volunteers are our mentors. Tonight, we have Mrs. Serena Williams, Community Services Coordinator, to tell you all about our efforts to support mentoring for our children. And I think she has some friends too here.
Thank you, Ms. Maycheck. Good evening.
Good evening.
So mentoring is a structured and trusting relationship between children and safe, caring individuals who provide guidance and support to them. Mentoring is classified as a top-tier intervention model for children, and we're really excited to be able to elevate and enhance our programming in the school district this year. Right now, we have 13 mentoring programs in place in our schools. 5 are located in elementary schools, 4 in middle schools, 3 in high schools and at the Applied Technology Center, and there are 9 elementary schools that would like to start a new program. We partner with Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Central Carolinas. Big Brothers Big Sisters is the national organization that does mentoring very well. We have a memorandum of understanding with them to ensure that when we enter mentoring relationships, our mentors are well trained, developed, and provide the right level of support. We also rely on Mentor, which is the national mentoring network out of Washington, D.C., that provides policy and advocacy for high-quality mentoring across the nation. We're currently developing a framework for our school system that includes program development and structure for all of our programs, a recruitment and selection process, orientation and training, which you will see more of next semester, matching and ongoing support. We want to make sure that we're developing right relationships and providing support where needed, and we want to recognize our mentors. We plan to do that work next year during National Volunteer Week in April and evaluate each program's effectiveness. There are 4 types of mentoring in our school system: traditional, group, team, and peer. Because of the sense of bonding that occurs between mentors and mentees, we're asking that our mentors volunteer with one child for at least 1 school year. We want the child to feel supported and cared for during that duration of time. Now, there are several things that makes mentoring work well, and that includes conducting screening of our mentors and mentees to ensure the right fit, matches based on like interest, providing training for mentors, and that's why we rely on those national partners to assist us with that, and the ongoing support through the Life of Mentoring relationships. We want our relationships to be sustained. So we're going to encourage all mentors to maintain a steady presence, to focus on the student's need for social, emotional support. And during training, we'll train on what that means. And also to pay attention for students' need for fun conversation. Everybody wants to have fun in a relationship. And we also want our mentors to feel free to seek out help and support from us here at the district level or school staff as needed. I'm really excited to share this with you. Remember, I said in the beginning, mentoring is the top tier intervention for students. National researchers found that after 18 months of engaging in mentoring relationships, 46% of students were less likely to begin using illegal drugs. 27% are less likely to begin using alcohol, 52% less likely to skip school, 37% are less likely to skip a class, and 33% are less likely to hit someone. Researchers also found that children in mentoring relationships are more confident in their school performance and have better relationships at home with their families. So this is why mentoring is so important. Just to give you some insight into a few more of our training resources, we're focusing on effective communication, building connections, grit, which we all need, and building resilience. We want our kids to be able to bounce back from setbacks. In our research, we refer to the Hardwired to Connect report, which is issued by the Commission on Children at Risk, which tells us that everybody is hardwired for close attachments with other people, and we're hardwired for meaning and a sense of purpose. So we want this report to guide our work, particularly during the training process. We're also relying on the 7 C's of building resilience in our kids. We all know that COVID brought a lot of challenges, and as adults, we had to build our own resilience and learn how to bounce back. So we're gonna have mentors help do that within our kids as well. And here tonight, we have 2 of our principals that have mentoring programs underway at their school. Mr. Pat Manus from Cherry Park and Dr. Mark Marshall from Saluda Trail. They're gonna tell you a little bit about mentoring in action at Cherry Park and Saluda Trail.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do at Cherry Park to encourage mentoring in our school. And quite honestly, these are some of the same programs that we have been doing for years, not only for me at Cherry Park Elementary, but also when I was at Richmond Drive. The picture on, I guess you're right, is our boys running club at Cherry Park. We have done that in an official fashion with Let Me Run, but Emily Anderson and Christy Beard, who are our PE teachers this year, are doing a running club with about 30, sometimes maybe yahoos, sometimes not, but they're great guys who love to run. The end goal for every semester is for them to run in a 5K. The same is true for our Girls on the Run, which is an organization sponsored through Girls on the Run International. Again, we have about 30 girls who are involved in that this fall. We have 2 different teams, one that meets on Monday, Wednesday, and another that meets on Tuesday, Thursday. These kids have a ton of fun. They set goals for themselves every single season that they run. We usually have teams both in the fall as well as the spring. There are costs associated with them. For the boys running club, that's more local for us. It's a very minimal cost. For Girls on the Run, it's a little bit more. But scholarships are available for all of the children to be able to be involved. And so we're very blessed to have great participation from our kids. Many of our staff members are the ones who are the coaches and the mentors for the group. We also have a number of our parents who helped us support both groups, both the boys running club as well as our girls on the run club. And again, are very, very, very fortunate that they make such a difference in the life of our children. Both of these groups as well are more for upper grades kids. Girls on the Run just 3rd through 5th grade, as well as boys. The boys running club is 4th and 5th grade. Our boys running club this year will be connecting with the Northwestern Turkey Trot. So we're glad to be able to support another one of our schools in their fundraising efforts as the boys wrap up. And the girls will be running in the Reindeer Romp as a part of as Christmasville this year, and so that'll be their final run. Both groups right now are doing their practice training runs and working really, really hard to get ready for those final efforts. And what we see every single season are guys and girls who some make some slight changes in improving their communication, relationships with others, but some who make some big, huge turnaround in their behavior, both in and out of the classroom. For them, they really enjoy connecting with not only the staff members and having a very different kind of relationship than what they normally do, but also with their peers and some of those people that maybe they had a hard time getting along with. In these particular groups, they figure out ways to work things out, resolve conflict, and learn how to get along better. So we're always very blessed to see the kind of relationships that these guys and girls have in mentoring, and it's always amazing when they get down to those final runs how they have developed so much confidence and the excitement that they feel in accomplishing something that's major for them. So for us, those are two of the ways that we have mentoring groups at our school.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Manus. The mentoring program at our school is Kappa League, and we have been able to form a relationship with Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. And as an administrator in Rock Hill School District, this isn't my first time working with the Kappas of Rock Hill. I was fortunate to get them to come to Saluda Trail this year. But we have identified 17 8th grade young men. And they come every other Friday to our school, and they have conversations about how to respond to positive and negative peer pressure. They have conversations about what to expect when going to high school. Also, there are conversations about your career choice. We're starting to have conversations about college. Fortunately, this year with us opening things up a little bit, we will be able to continue with field trips that young men have gone on for years through Kappa League. We've had an opportunity to visit Clemson, USC, and the young men really do get a joy out of that. Now, what's significant about the relationships that are developed on the middle school level, all of these young men will have an opportunity to stay connected to mentors as they go on to high school as well. And the major thing about that is there's scholarship money available through the Kappa Foundation as well as these young men go on to college and pursue their careers.
No, you're good.
Other groups that have applied to be mentors with the school district? If so, do we have a listing of those that may have passed muster to become part of our system?
We don't have an application process, a standalone application process just for mentors. We do have an overall volunteer application process, and we've just made updates and changes to that process that will be rolling out in the near future. So as a part of that rollout, we intend to call for mentors so that, and they're on the new interest process, they will be able to designate their interest as a mentor. So we will be able to designate the new interest under the new volunteer process.
And they are coming, I believe, at the December board meeting to do a presentation to us to talk a little bit about what they are doing with kids over in those two schools.
Yes.
Okay, so Northwestern has the fellows to.
Rollinsford Road as well.
And Rollinsford Road does.
I do have and this is the mentoring at a glance. For this presentation, I just broke down the number of programs that are currently underway, but I can provide more detail about which groups are where. I do have that listing that I can provide to you.
I appreciate that. If
Yes,
it-
ma'am.
You know, when parents and students hear more about it, they show more of an interest.
Yes, ma'am.
Not really having that information out there, in the school. If they notice it's at one school, they may inquire at another school if they have that program where their children or the parents may be interested in engaging their child in that. Because I know how well children respond when they are mentored to
Yes, ma'am.
improving grades and behavior. I thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think one of the things that we probably should publicly state too and emphasize is there's a public misconception that policies are still in place to prevent volunteerism or mentorship programs, and the board overturned all of those temporary policies. So we encourage and hope that people will go to the district website, go through the quick volunteer application form, and every single policy is here. We have an open door policy. We need the community. We need folks to show up at the schools and be active volunteers, because just like you stated in your presentation, there's a direct correlation between volunteerism and successful outcomes in students. So I just wanted to say that, our policies are wide open. We're waiting for y'all. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Ms. Douglas?
And that is, thank you, appreciate the work with the program and everything, because we know that we have a lot of students that's in a single parent home, and some of them do not have that male figure, and some of them, the girls, is shortage with mom going to work and what have you, to really spend time with them. So this is fantastic. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Ms. Cole.
Thank you for all the work you've been doing. Do we have any programs where we have high school students mentoring younger students, since we've got Independence and Rock Hill High
Yes.
right there together?
Yes, we certainly do. And I will provide the details about which programs are in action, who's being served. I will provide a report to you in the hotline,
Great.
the next hotline.
One
Perfect.
more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Do we have policies in place regarding outside contact with students? Working at the museum, I have had mentors bring their mentees, but nowadays we have to be
That's-
so careful.
That's an outstanding
So-
question. So we have some terminology in the mentoring policy, board policy. However, during our orientation and our training process, we plan to cover that. Our intention is to facilitate school-based mentoring on our campuses. So activity outside of Rock Hill schools is not encouraged by us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next up is, I believe, report of the superintendent. That would be you.
I just have a couple brief announcements. First of all, I want to thank the 3 unbelievable young ladies that helped us with the school board candidates forum that we hosted. It was all student-led, and they were the voice of students. They came up with the questions, they came up with the policy procedure that we followed. But whenever that happens, I look at the leadership there, and I think we're in really good hands when it comes to leadership with those 3 young ladies. Did a fabulous job representing their high school, so we thank them for that. Another announcement, our school of choice window, typically we open that in December. We're pushing that back to January this year. We're going to coincide that with some things that we're doing with re-enrollment or verification, we're going to call it. I think we're going to get bigger bang for the buck, and doing it all at one time will help us. So those of you that will be looking for the school of choice window, that'll be pushed back to January. We're currently recruiting teachers for the 2023-24 school year. If you want to learn more about our district, we're going to have a bus tour, so get on the bus with us. We'll be hosting a tour for potential candidates to explore our schools, meet our leadership team, get questions answered, and kind of take a peek at our community. I think we have so much to offer here in Rock Hill, so it's going to give a little peek into the window that we call home. If you like to learn more about us, you can email jobs@rhmail.org. That's jobs@rhmail.org. Our next school board meeting is scheduled for November 28th at 6 p.m., and it will be streamed. The last announcement, if I can have a little bit of leeway in this formality, we have a member of our team who's always known for just making us feel special on our birthday. He goes out of his way to do little things, but the thing that he does best is he always sings happy birthday. And he sings with his heart more than just his mouth and his diaphragm. So at this time, Dr. John Jones, we would like to extend a happy 29th birthday again to you. And if I have permission, I'd like to just start
Absolutely.
that,
Go for
if
it.
that's okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Jones. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, you got to allow us to do that at least once, as many times as you've done it with us. We thank you for that. I think it's something that makes you special.
Yes.
So happy birthday to an unbelievable colleague. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So that was my first order of action, so that's been taken care of. We are obviously under agenda item of other and future business. So we have already sang and said happy birthday to Dr. Jones. Check that off the list. The second thing I have is tonight is the final meeting of somebody who has been our meeting rock, who makes amazing videos for our district, who has been a very valued and loved and cherished team member. And together with the other folks who run our meetings, he keeps us straight during this time. His tomorrow is his final day with Rock Hill Schools. He is leaving us for a different opportunity. He's not going to be far away, so we're still going to see him. We're going to miss him tremendously, but I would at this point would like to recognize Mr. Aaron Sheffield for his service to Rock Hill Schools, and let's give him a round of applause. He's hiding in the back. Speech. He's shaking his head. We're not going to put you on the spot, I promise. So 2 more things that I have is, well, 3. Make sure that you have your travel arrangements for the delegate, and if you have not received them yet, Chris will be giving those out. And Pete, if you will get with Chris, and she can arrange all of that for you. Number 2 is the next meeting kind of coincides with Thanksgiving. So per tradition, we usually have our food service company, so Sodexo, will be coming in and doing a Thanksgiving meal for board and for staff. Somewhere in conjunction with the meeting, either in the middle or right before. So you just know that come hungry, and it will be an opportunity for us to meet some of our Sodexo staff as well. for another time. And the last one that I will get with Ms. Gammons with this week is to set up small group sessions for all of the board members with Dr. Schmaltzy. So keep a lookout for those emails as they will come through from Chris Gammons. Does anybody else have anything for the benefit of the group? Yes, Ms. Douglas.
I'm gonna be quiet, okay?
No.
Since this is Thanksgiving month, and we all here to be thankful, I would like to say thank you to all of the community supporters who have contributed a number of things to help with the Rock Hill School District in many areas. I would like to extend to Elevation Church too for their great help. They have packed over 800 bags of food for Back to Pack and funds to support this program. They also celebrated students. I think some of you remember when we went to the church for the celebration of the students, and funds for the education grants for our teachers. And they are an amazing partner in many, many ways. But we have so many in Rock Hill that steps up to help our district from the community, and we all would like to say, I know I would like to say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think, yes, absolutely. Ms. Douglas is so right, and we cannot do this without all the help that we have from the community and the partners we have, so for sure. Anybody else have anything for, yes?
And this doesn't have to be right away, but in the next couple of months, I would like to have an update on the ESSER funding and how we have been using those funds to support our students. Thank you.
Perfect. Anything else? No? Okay. So we do have an executive session tonight. We have an executive session for the purpose of personnel matter breach of contract and for personnel matter hiring. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the open session and enter the executive session for the statement matters.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you and welcome back. We have been meeting in the executive session for the purpose of personnel matter, breach of contract, and personnel matter hiring. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the executive session and reconvene the open session.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Do I have any motions coming out of executive session?
Excuse me, yes, Madam Chair. I move that we grant the request of the professional employee to be released from the employee's contract with the district, and that we direct the administration to make a formal complaint to the State Board of Education regarding the employee's breach of contract.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Do I have any further motions coming out of executive session?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that we accept the administration's recommendation for assistant principal at Rock Hill High School.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Burns. Any discussion? Bearing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And that concludes, unless there are any further motions. No? So at that point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Madam Chair, I motion we adjourn.
Thank you,
tonight's
Ms.
meeting.
Cole. Do I have a second?
I second. You go.
I'm going to give it to Mr. Nozel. It is
Yeah.
his first second. Any discussion on this? Good. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. It is 7:54. And we